Now, another interesting story this week, which relates to stuff that I've been writing about, of course, for a very long time, is UFOs and non-human activity around the planet. Because this week, the US Navy has introduced new guidelines for reporting UFO sightings. Here's a story. It's on CNN. I do apologize for that. It was just the one that I found to be on CNN, but it is on many different sources. And it says Navy pilots who think they may have seen unidentified flying objects will now have a detailed means of reporting unexplainable events so the military can keep track of what may or may not be happening. The Navy is updating and formalizing the process by which reports of any such suspected incursions can be made to the cognizant authorities, they said in a statement. A new message to the fleet will detail the steps for reporting, and that's in a draft, it says, the statement. The Navy does not think that aliens have been flying in US airspace. Well, of course, they would say that. One Navy official told CNN. But there have been a number of reports of unauthorized and or unidentified aircraft entering various military-controlled ranges and designated airspace in recent years, according to the statement. These kind of incursions can be both a security risk and pose a safety hazard for both Navy and Air Force aviation. For safety and security concerns, the Navy and the U.S. Air Force takes these reports very seriously and investigates each and every report. Yeah, but doesn't make them public. The new policy will standardize how incidents are reported and what radar and other data may be gathered that the military can store long-term for further analysis. Well, this is all kind of flannel and waffle and wind, because they well know that there is considerable UFO activity, unidentified flying object activity around the planet, and has been for at least decades and decades. And what is described is the same as what ancient societies described in their own it's symbolic and way of describing them from their cultural perspective. So now, for instance, people talk about being taken up into craft by, quote, aliens like the Greys or whatever, and taken off. And the ancients used to talk about the gods taking people up into the heavens. And when you break down the descriptions, they're basically describing the same thing, actually more than basically. And so these craft that are being described, which they say we don't think are alien, which of course is what they would say, are moving at speeds and changing directions at those speeds that no technology that's even fractionally close to that potential is known in the public arena. Yes, as I've been saying again for years, the secret projects and underground bases and what have you, they do have what we call UFOs, flying saucers. It's a technology they've long known about. And some of these flying saucer UFOs will be flown by humans, but certainly not all of them. And the ones that are the most, quote, alien are those that go even beyond just seeing a UFO, but they do things that are just extraordinary, like appear and disappear and stuff like that. So what we are looking at is the obvious. Just look into the night sky and you're looking at a tiny, tiny, tiny fraction of the Milky Way galaxy. And although they said until the late 1920s, or they believed until the late 1920s, that there was only one galaxy in the universe, the latest highest estimate I saw was 2 trillion. Now, when you think that the universe is only one universe, within infinite reality, and they're talking about 2 trillion galaxies in the universe, and that by comparison with the size of the universe, planet Earth is the equivalent of a billionth of a pinhead, then the idea that there's not other life apart from human life as we perceive life is insane. It's utterly insane. And so it's not about whether there's other life out there. Of course there is. It's what is its agenda and how is it affecting humanity? And of course, out there will be the whole spectrum of possibility, from psychopaths to lovely people. And I say that this world has been manipulated for a long time, thousands and thousands of years, by a force that has malevolent intent. And this is something to watch also about this, because, again, in the books in the 1990s, I was quoting American military programs, which were detailing plans to, at some point, stage a fake alien invasion and justifying the centralization of power and military power to meet the threat of this alien invasion. So when the authorities and the military and the Navy start to talk in at least more reasonable terms about UFOs, and more open terms about UFOs, then we need to keep that in mind as well and be very careful we don't buy it if that's what's played. But anyway, it's an interesting development and another step along this road of accepting the obvious that we're not alone. It's just madness to think otherwise. Anyway, talking of, this whole deal moves on, and one of the goals in this one world centralized tyranny, with the world government and the world army and the world currency, just no cash, digital, and all these world centralization power structures, is the plan for a one world religion. And there's an interesting article on davidicke.com this week by a guy called Daniel Taylor, which goes like this. He's kind of looking at these attacks on Christian churches and, of course, the fire at Notre Dame. And he says this: Rockefeller-backed Federal Council of Churches pushed world government, universal system of money, and worldwide freedom of immigration, which is this whole open border world that they're talking about, and making happen, by the way. The council was told by Dr. William Patton, co-secretary of the World Council of Churches, that collectivism is coming whether we like it or not. And of course, this is what the demands of the climate activists are. Exactly that. A Marxist, Stalinist world, in effect. For those paying attention, there is a discernible pattern of social engineering that is directed at the major world religions, particularly Christianity. This is undoubtedly, the article says, a very complex issue, as there are numerous belief systems and nuanced views of millions of people. What we know is that the globalists' financed wars and revolutions have fueled illegal immigration and stoked flames of conflict all over the world. It can be reasonably demonstrated that key globalist organizations are following a program for reshaping the world's religions, utilizing a tried and tested technique. It's the technique that I call problem, reaction, solution. And he describes it in terms of the churches like this. You sell the idea that religions are bigoted, they feed intolerance and fuel violence. And you put out extreme examples from each group for people to see. The reaction is I don't want to be politically incorrect, so I'm going to dissociate myself from these demonized religious groups. And the solution is a middle ground is found, and a politically correct faith is formed under the banner of global government. He says the establishment has encouraged and planted the seeds of extremism where it suits geopolitical agendas. The consequences of this manipulation are then pointed out in the ensuing dialectic battle as evidence of just a cause against these ideas. Before we go further, he says it's important to point out that the establishment has vested interests in shaping religion. And he goes on to talk about how it's been used for centuries and then some to manipulate perception and manipulate society. And he goes on, this influence has continued in our modern times, but with what is perhaps a more sophisticated flair. The Rockefeller family, with their vast fortune garnered from the oil baron John D. Rockefeller Sr., played a major role in reshaping the churches in modern America. And of course, they were also behind the creation of what we call modern medicine, the drug and scalpel medicine. It comes as little surprise, given their long-term goal of world government, that the Rockefeller family would approve of and support a societal outlook favorable to globalism. The use of religion is one method that, in the Rockefellers' eyes, looked to be a promising means of accomplishing this goal. Early programs, such as the Interchurch World Movement, focused on the maintenance of harmonious relations between people in America's growing industrial society. Later endeavors, such as the World Council of Churches, would trend towards being global in nature, with goals moving beyond that of simply maintaining class stability in America to the elimination of national sovereignty and world governance. As documents show, the article says, multiple attempts have been made to urge the Christian churches to get behind programs for world governance. If the attempts were not initiated by the Rockefellers, significant financial support was provided to organizations sharing their vision of the world. And it goes on, you can see it on davidicke.com, to describe how this whole thing is moving into the modern world. And if you're going to fuse religions in this case, or anything else, but if you're going to fuse religions into one religion, you have to break down the current religions so that fusion can take place. And we are seeing the start, and it's been going on for a long time, but the start in public awareness of the breakdown of the Christian religion. And I say that as someone who's not a Christian. But if we're going to be streetwise, it's not about deciding or making decisions based on whether we support something or not. It's whether or why what is happening in relation to that subject or that organization is being done. So, for instance, people can debate over whether gun laws should be changed in the United States. But the real question is, why does the establishment want to take weapons from the population at the same time that they are arming the police to the enamel on their teeth? That's the streetwise question to ask. Not get caught in a debate, which is what this cabal wants people to have, because they want rid of the weapons, and they keep putting on these mass gun tragedies to fuel this get rid of guns. Because we have to, if we're going to understand the world, we've got to understand that we are dealing with psychopaths. And they'll do absolutely anything. They have contempt for human life. They'll do absolutely anything to get what they want and to get people to see the world the way they want to see it. Now, people are changing in the sense that even on a political level, they're sick of the establishment. They're sick of the political establishment. But we have to be very careful that, again, that attitude does not allow the manipulation of what this cabal wants, while at the same time appearing to be what the cabal doesn't want. Wonderful example, of course, is Donald Trump. Donald Trump won the election because he was perceived by a very large number of people to be anti-establishment, to be someone who wasn't one of them, one of the political class. Well, of course, he absolutely was and always has been. But he sold the idea, and had it sold for him, that he was an outsider who was going to be different. Of course, he never was. And we've seen that now. He's just like any other old politician, president of any other party. Anyone who says in his election campaign that he wants to stop interfering in the affairs of other countries, militarily and otherwise, and then appoints John Bolton as his national security advisor, is lying to you.